Free speech advocates are looking forward to President-elect Trump returning to the Oval Office. During the campaign, he committed to protect free speech at a time when some argue the First Amendment is outdated and needs to be redefined. CBN's Gary Lane has the story.
Once banned from Twitter and other social media platforms, President-elect Trump knows the consequences of censorship. His election could allow him to help reverse what many, including popular podcaster Joe Rogan, believe is a dangerous trend towards suppressing free speech.
Thing is nuts, and it's a dangerous path that we were on. We were on that path. Trump has vowed to have free speech become a very important part of what he's standing for, and that this censoring of information needs to stop.
As to reversing this trend, a Wall Street Journal editorial recommends an executive order mandating that if federal employees encourage private companies to censor individuals' First Amendment rights, those actions must be reported to the Office of Management and Budget. The OMB would then publish these reports online. Others propose revising the traditional interpretation of speech rights that are unlimited under the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. In 2017, Columbia Law School professor Timothy Wu wrote, "The right to free speech is entering a new period of political irrelevance." He went further a year later at an Aspen Institute forum.
The First Amendment to the United States Constitution has become obsolete.
Since then, certain U.S. political figures, such as former Secretary of State John Kerry, have expressed concerns that freedom of speech in this social media era allows the distribution of false information.
Look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence.
This is the most dangerous anti-free speech period in our history, because we've never seen an alliance with the government, media, academia, corporations like this one.
A recent poll by the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression found 53% of American adults believe the First Amendment goes too far in protecting free speech. George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley finds this statistic alarming. He believes current American culture is producing a new generation fearful of free speech.
These kids have been told their entire lives that free speech is harmful and it's triggering and you don't have to hear opposing views. It's very hard to get a free people to give up freedom. They have to be really afraid or really angry. And that's what we're seeing.
NYU law professor Kenji Yoshino believes the American commitment to this right needs to be updated. He argues that's due to many changes in our country's political and cultural landscape since the First Amendment was established.
Right, today, it's a really different landscape, right? Anyone with a social media account can be a publisher of their own speech, and that's a really wonderful thing from the perspective of expression. But we also need a different model that says the only threat to speech, or the primary threat, is not necessarily government.
Long before social media and the internet, people publicly shared their views primarily at school board and city council meetings. They also expressed opinions through letters to local newspapers, where editors often censored or rejected their submissions. Today, with smartphones in hand, nearly everyone can share their thoughts on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and X. Many previously marginalized voices are now heard, although some share false information or hate speech. While this type of speech is protected by the First Amendment, it also poses significant challenges.
Sometimes that's going to mean you're going to protect some Nazis, you're going to protect some Klan members, but also means you're going to protect some abolitionists, you're going to protect some suffragettes. And the question is there an alternative that would work better?
Some legal scholars and politicians want oversight boards established to monitor speech on social media. Yale law professor Keith Whittington sees that as problematic.
Suggests that if you start empowering government officials to pick and choose which speech they want to protect because they think is really valuable, and which speech they want to suppress because they really think it's really bad and people shouldn't have to listen to that, the result is not going to be good for democracy or for the margins of society or for the progress of society more broadly.
Turley believes Americans must understand this right was granted to humanity by the Creator, not by the government. The government is responsible for safeguarding this right, and each generation must actively defend it.
We have to have a type of awakening You know, we have to remind ourselves of why this right is indispensable. Because if free speech was given to us by God, if it is part of being human, if it's in our DNA, then you can never really kill it without killing us.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
Thank you, Gary. It's alarming to hear John Kerry say the First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to hammer out of existence sources that he or others find objectionable. We have law professors calling the First Amendment outdated and obsolete. Back in March, I think it was, a sitting Supreme Court justice said the First Amendment can potentially hamstring the federal government. The federal government's job is to protect free speech, not suppress it and determine who to silence.